Well, this is the Suzuki Jimny like you've never seen it before. Yes, this much loved Japanese off-roader is now available in Australia in 5-door XL trim. We've been treated to a very short drive on-road and off-road today, so let's get to it. The Jimny is a vehicle that needs little introduction with off-road enthusiasts in Australia, with a wait time of well over 6 months for versions of the existing 3-door. Now, Suzuki is looking to broaden the appeal of the popular SUV, offering a 5-door, 4-seat variant for the first time. So the 5-door Jimny will be available in Australia with both a manual transmission and an automatic. The good news really is the pricing. It adds a $3,000 premium on the 3-door Jimny, so $34,990 for the 5-speed manual. If you want the automatic, it's $36,490. In this day and age, that kind of pricing I reckon is pretty compelling, especially for everything you're getting and all the off-road capability. Now, speaking of off-road capability, it's more good news there for buyers as well. This now measures 310 millimeters longer than the 3-door, but all of that is absorbed into the wheelbase. So you have exactly the same approach and departure angles, very similar clearance and all the rest. The same 1.5 litre naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine resides under the bonnet, so you're getting the same 75 kilowatts and 130 newton meters. The Jimny is backed by a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty in Australia and offers moderate servicing costs based on 12-month, 15,000 kilometre intervals. So the good news about the interior is it is as charming as ever before. Really nice tactile interior with different buttons. It's very practical. I love the array of circular dials in the center fascia and just the old school vibe to the entire interior. You now adopt a larger 9-inch touchscreen display. I haven't had too much of a chance to play around with that today, I'll be honest, but that and the digital screen in the instrument cluster do go some way in modernising this car. Now, as for rear seat space, I've got to say I was quite impressed. There's more space there than I'd sort of anticipated. No rear air vents. Your window switchgear too is up the front, which sort of gives you a clue as to how this vehicle was, I suppose, set to be used. You could probably make it work as an everyday family car, but really, it's a great car for weekenders, and this is really reflective of that. With the second row of seats in place, the Jimny XL offers 211 litres in boot space, extending to 332 litres when those same seats are folded. But enough of the chat, it's time to hit the road. So the Suzuki Jimny XL, this is a very, very brief taste test, so I'll try and keep it fairly brief. But what's it like on road? Well, the good news is that it upholds all the great things that are great about the Jimny 3-door. It's full of character. It's charming, it has a manual gearbox, and I'm driving it at the moment, so it is inherently involving and engaging for the driver. The controls are fairly light, and it's just pleasant on road. That's probably the best word for it, especially in regular everyday proceedings. The engine builds speed in a fairly linear fashion. The steering is light, as I said. It's a little bit approximate in terms of its response to inputs. Same with the body control, like it will hold itself fairly well through flat, smooth corners, but the moment you introduce some bumps, there's a lack of control there, especially over the rear axle. And I think that comes back to it being a rigid coil rear. It just means that bumps that come through, they tremor their way through the cabin, through the chassis, and they're ever present, especially on B-grade roads that are common across much of Australia. If you get a sharper imperfection like a cat's eye, a road join, or even a pothole, you'll occasionally get a thud, or it'll take the body of the car another second or two to really reacclimatise itself and resume proceedings. But otherwise, this is great. It's good fun, it's pleasant on road. Push the engine a little bit harder and it needs to work. It's clear that it requires something, and more torque, a turbocharger, I don't know, it would really go a long way to making this engine feel more refined. But it builds speed and it's nice fun. That's the word I keep coming back to. Fun and pleasant. So this, of course, is the other side of the Jimny equation, how it goes off-road, and I'm happy to report that it is as capable as ever, despite a longer wheelbase, a longer body, and it is doing absolutely everything that we have thrown at it. I had a little bit of trouble with throttle response to begin with. Moving to low range has helped that a little bit. I'd probably just ask a little bit more from the engine on some of these obstacles. It doesn't quite have the immediacy that I'm really after, but it's doing really everything that I've asked for it. The hill descent control function, although it doesn't offer adjustability, in high range it limits speed to 10 k's an hour, at low range it limits to 5 k's an hour. So it's probably as much adjustability as you really want. Anything slower than 5 k's an hour is a pretty serious climb, and you're probably going to want to be having that brake pedal at the ready anyway. But the amount of wheel articulation that you get from these little cars is quite impressive. You know, everything that I said about road manners before, you kind of take with a grain of salt, or in the context of what it's doing right now off-road, because it really is remarkable out of the box what these little SUVs can do. They're so much fun. You know, like, name another SUV at this price point that can do everything that this Jimny XL is doing. I think you'd be hard pressed to find one. Well, it's only been a very short taste test, but it's safe to say the new Suzuki Jimny XL really does extend all the great attributes of the existing Jimny 3-door. It's terrific off-road, it's quite charming on-road, and more than anything, it's just fun, and that's what we really came here for. We're looking forward to spending more time in this in the coming months.